Okay, Spooky Tree Part 3, and this should finish it up. So the next thing that we're supposed to do, and it looks like there is really bunk directions on this, is to select our skeleton. So place skeleton images, extract skeleton from background using extract filter. Well, that doesn't exist anymore. So we're going to use object select, or you can use subject select. Okay, but since there's not, this is all very similar color, let's try that object select and see how that works. So I'm drawing a box from the subject. Hey, works pretty good. You can go in a little bit with a little more detail, perhaps with the quick select. So I'm going to do Shift Wand to get my quick select tool. Hold Alt and try to get some of this background out. Oh, did it really good. Okay, it's kind of seeing what I want to do. Well, not so much. Sometimes it's about as good as you... Oh, that's because I'm subtracting. That would help. Remember that this selection is going to be pretty small. This is like the little crook of our tree. So we don't have to worry about it too much. There we go. All right. Now you could go crazy and go in and... Oh, I think we want to add this rib cage though. You could go in and clean up, get all these little areas, but I don't think it's going to be really necessary for this. We can try to get some. But it's just going to get really hard, and it's just really tedious, and again, it's very small. So I'm going to go with that, and Control J to put it on a new layer, or Command J if you're on a Mac. And then pop it down, pop it over here, and bring it into our document. And it looks like they're having us do 2 skeletons. We could do it from here. All right, and in our layers, we get rid of this skeleton guy. We have skeleton. 1. Looks like we're going to have a group. So we're going to make a copy of this guy and say skeleton 2. We'll put him in a group. Because it looks like we're going to do, for some reason, do some like shadowy kind of thing. So load selection for object, fill it with a black color, and apply a blur to create a shape, and multiply blending mode. All right. So let's select our skeleton number 1. Control or Command and clicking the thumbnail image loads the selection. And then we're going to create a new layer, just like the tutorial, and fill this with black. So I have my paint bucket, and I'm just going to fill it with black. You can see that we now have a black skeleton. I'm going to deselect and apply a blur. So filter, blur, Gaussian blur. And we do not want it at, looks like we kind of want it fairly blurred. Not quite so much. Let's try that. And multiply. And then we're going to make a copy. This might all be for naught. I have no idea. And transform skeleton 2 and skeleton layer 2. Transform them facing the other way. Okay, so Control or Command T and flip horizontal. Control or Command T and flip horizontal. Why are we doing that? I don't know. Let's see if it tells us. Add other small details. Alright. I have no idea why there's this kind of like shadow. What we really need is some color matching. That's what we really need. So I think that will be better if we do that. You can use the shadow like as a shadow, right? Let's make this a lot smaller. Maybe rotate it a little bit. Ah! We could put the shadow underneath. Kind of looks like a little shadow. If that looks cool. I don't know. I would really drop the opacity on this though. So I think those are going to be kind of optional. That's what I'm going to say. Alright. So we have a little shadow on our skeleton. I'm going to just turn off the visibility on these guys until we decide we want them. And on skeleton 2, let's do a color match or an adjustment for the color. So adjustments. Let's try hue saturation. Ooh. Remember, we have to clip. So holding Alt or Option in between the two layers that we want to clip together. We'll put a clipping mask, and then let me get that. So I'm going to desaturate this guy. Already it's looking much more skeleton-like, much more realistic, photorealistic. Okay, so that's kind of what we're going for. Adjustment, maybe color balance. We usually put a little bit of red. Oop. I'm trying to not show my layer panel so that you can so you can see more real estate, but I think that this is better to be able to see what I'm doing. Alright, now we can see a little bit what's going on here. Alright, color balance. We want that clipped as well. Thank you for your patience. I'm going to open it up, open up the properties, and maybe put a little bit of red. Alright, because that's kind of, remember, that's kind of been our adjustments, and a little bit of yellow. But the skeleton is so yellow that we might not want to put any yellow in there. Okay. And again, any of these, you're welcome to not follow my cue, but really just kind of do your own thing, right? Just bringing down a little bit of lightness in the properties of the hue saturation layer. So that's what's going on there. So I'm liking that. Add other small details. I think you guys can get the mushrooms. Draw light beams using light yellow translucent soft brushes. Okay, so this is slightly tricky. So the light is coming down here. You might even want to make a new layer for this and put it below the tree. No, we don't want this. Let's say light. So above the sky, below the tree, or wherever you would like the light to come from, right? It depends on your image. So the light's coming down. I want to bring some light down here, right? So we're going to get a big soft brush. Again, I'm going to go with my pressure opacity. I think that's what this is. Find my tablet. And we want a color that's maybe like kind of similar to this. You can just take this kind of light color, right? Maybe, and kind of experiment. Isn't everything an experiment? I would say take a fairly large brush. Really drop down the opacity. I'm going to try 25%, and I just changed that using my number keys again. And just try. Why is that not going? Oh, because it has to be above the ground, below the tree. There we go. Ah, and I already have it, right? So just some light beams maybe coming through. Something like that. Light beams are kind of tricky. I'd say start small with a very low opacity and give it a try, because it's something that you might even really want in your I'm going to have some light coming back here too in your fairy tale. Okay, so we're getting a little backlight here. Now you know what that means, that you should probably have a little burning in the front. I'm really not happy with how light it is on the front of my image, so I think I'm going to, if I were going to turn this in, or if this was really a project, I would darken that front a lot more. Okay, draw Spanish moss using preset Texture 4 brush from Assorted. Well, let me just show you where that is. Okay, so in the brushes, we're in our legacy brushes, and it says Assorted brushes. These are the assorted brushes, and we are going to go all the way down to, oops, Texture 4 brush. And this will allow us to draw our Spanish moss. Okay, and the idea is just to have some Spanish moss hanging from, let me go back to 100% opacity, hanging down from your branches. And we don't want that color. We want a green color. So I'm going to sample from this, like this leafy part, right, that's already there. If not, pick a green that's, you know, somewhat appropriate, and you're just going to draw your moss. And you can put as little or as much moss on as you like. That's kind of too light for the sky. right? Might have been probably better. I'm going to get a different color too. So go back to my foreground color, get a darker color, see if that works a little bit better. And using a combination of colors too makes your work a little bit more natural looking. Okay, so we're hanging, and you're going to have lots of branches. So again, I was just, so you're going to hang some Spanish moss, because you know, in any spooky tree there's always Spanish moss. Okay. Alright. So that's the Spanish moss tip. You can make it less. Remember, we have brush presets too. So you might want to put some shape dynamics on there and change the angle jitter on that. And that might look a little bit more natural. Just gonna have to experiment with it. Yeah, that looks like a little bit better, actually. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good compared to these things. So I just put a little angle jitter on there, and that looks a lot better. Oh, actually it tells you to put shape dynamics. Size jitter, big angle jitter. See, I missed that part. Scattering, color dynamics, and smoothing. So that all of that should be on for your brush. And yes, putting some brushes on there looks much better. And let's see what's left that you might need help with. Place smoke and fire images. Use the layers order and blending mode adjustments just like on the screenshots. So it tells you for the smoke, use the screen blend mode. Right, screen. For fire, use screen. You have a parrot skeleton if you want to put that on. You have a dog skeleton if you want to use that. And for the fire, you can also use linear dodge, okay, which is this one. And then, when you're all done, you merge all your layers. And you do that, and we'll show you. We have a skeleton all the way down to the sky. So I chose the skeleton, selected the skeleton. I'm going to scroll all the way down, hold Shift, click Sky, right click, and merge layers. Okay. Then you're going to duplicate this layer and apply equalize to duplicated layer. So here we are going to go down oh, it's an adjustment, sorry. Adjustments, image, adjustments. And I am not seeing it. Equalize. Okay. And that will be, your final will not look anything like that, but trying to zoom out. Okay. And then you'll have your skeletons and your fire and your smoke and your moss and anything else that that you put in. All right, and I hope you have fun. Please finish this up. We're going to move on to looking at surrealism, and then next week we will start your project.